Hello and welcome back to Cenobound's How To. So today I'm going to teach you how to add an event. It's very, very simple. All you need to do is go to your profile tab, which of course you can find at the top of the screen with the little logo. Go down, click profile, and you'll come to this page. What I want you to pay attention to is this bit down here. So all you need to do is click add event. That will bring you over to the form, and then you literally just fill out the details as you wish. Okay, so I'm going to just create some details on here. To set a single event, you would just select your days as you would normally, the time you want to start and the time you want to finish. So I'm just obviously going to put some random information in here. And then you go to your location. Now this you can have as either a physical location where you would fill out the information below, or as a URL where you would obviously add your Zoom link or your Teams link or whatever other video content that you're using. Add a bit of text on that as well so that people can see what it's for, and then do your description. If you don't have a location, all you need to do is click no location. You come in here, you add your description, whatever that is, so you just put your details in there, like so. You select your category. If you want multiple categories, you just literally select the one that you want to go for, like so. Then you just press Control and click again, and it will select multiple categories there for you. You then choose what file you want to use. Now the best image size to use is an 800 by 800 pixel photo, and you just literally select that in there. Then to create registration, you click enable registration, and by here you can edit each of your tickets. You can create the ticket name, a description in the tickets if you wish, like so. You can select your price. If it's free, you leave it as 0, but if it is got a value on it, you just add the value. You select how many tickets there are. So say for example I've got 30 tickets. Now you can set that everybody has to at least have one ticket, and you can also set it that people can only buy up to a set amount of tickets. You can also create when it's available from. So for example, mine would be available from today at early hours, and it is only, and this will then go offline tomorrow at another set time of your choice. If that ticket has to be required, so everyone buys that ticket, you will just simply click that box. Other than that, just leave it blank. Okay, when you are finished, close ticket editor and it will save your ticket here. If you do have multiple tickets, you can add multiple tickets to the list as well. So for example, I'm going to call that standard ticket 2. I'm going to say that that is £10 because it could be a junior ticket or a membership ticket or a reduced ticket. Whatever you decide your overall ticket is with the whole event, that's what you put in the space. Then again, you can put your availability in there and you close tickets down again. And as you can see here, 30 tickets in each. If your overall ticket is 30, then it will only sell 30 tickets as a maximum. So that could be 10 of one, 20 of the other. It could be 15 of one and 15 of the other. It could be 5 of one and 25 of the other. But it all depends on what that total spaces are. And again, you can put a maximum of how many tickets each person can book. You can create a booking off date. So it could say that you wanted to book it off, say 15 minutes before the event, and then no one else will be able to book on from there. Leave both of these as default. Hit your consent button to consent to your submitted data being collected. That will then mean that you will then be able to get the data that you need, and then you would just hit submit event, and that would then get listed in the events board. Hello and welcome to Business for Entrepreneurs, where every week we get an expert in their field to come along and have a chat about their journey through business. And this week is no different. Today we have social media guru, the lovely Caroline McShane from Social Honeycomb. Caroline, welcome to the show. How are you? How's life? What's news? What's happening in the world of social media?
Hello, so lovely to be here. Life is good. Life is in the world of social media is incredibly hectic at the moment. I don't know whether you've noticed, but suddenly the likes of Twitter have introduced bucket loads of new features. Instagram is galloping away with lots of new features as well, and LinkedIn's coming along with quite a few exciting new features as well. So it's pretty busy and hectic, which I personally love, because I love learning new features and I love sharing them with my guests.
So just quickly before we start, because normally, right, at this point, we normally say, right, Caroline, tell us a little bit about your business, right, and your business journey. But I just want, there's a question that's burning in my heart right now. You mentioned Twitter there, you mentioned Instagram, obviously you mentioned LinkedIn. I think when anyone speaks about social media, you know, Facebook comes in there. TikTok, is that social media now?
It is very much so, yes. And it's I personally don't tend to get involved with TikTok that much from a training perspective, because there are a lot of people out there who can do it a lot more than I can. But it is a huge competitor to Instagram. And in fact, I was listening to a podcast today that was saying that Adam Mosseri, who runs Instagram, has always totally dismissed TikTok, despite the fact that he nicks most of their features about 6 months later. But he has just taken an account on TikTok, as have Instagram. So I think he's finally had to acknowledge that TikTok is here to stay. And
wow,
it started, everyone was slightly dubious. It came from Musical.ly. They had a bit of a bad track record in terms of their security and things and safety, but it really is forging ahead. And to the point where it's not just about mad dancing. I caught my daughter on it the other night, and by the time I'd come back down to earth, having gone ballistic, she showed me that she was actually studying for her physics exam, and it was revision, and somebody had jumped on the platform and doing that. So it really is a good platform, or is becoming a really good platform, and it's not just about kids dancing like this.
Yeah, what about Snapchat? Is that social media?
It is to a degree, but it's more these days about a communication tool. The kids use it for, sending snaps, for working out where their friends are, or rather where their friends are and they aren't, which I think is a very huge negative to it. And it is still classed as social media, but it's not quite what it was set up. It has sort of morphed into something different to what it was set up for me initially.
Gosh, it's all the different platforms, isn't it? So,
Caroline, you've got Pinterest, Reddit, you've got all sorts going on.
All of it.
But let's talk about you.
Let's go back to where it all started, Caroline. How did this all come about? How did Social Honeycomb come about? And what's your sort of business journey into owning your own social media company?
I'd love to say it was all very straightforward, but like so many things, they never are. And I think I can almost take it right back to when I was about 6 or 7, when one of my teachers turned around to my parents at a parents' evening and said, if Caroline spent as much time focused on what she was supposed to be doing, rather than making sure everybody around her had the things they needed or were trying to solve their problems, she'd go a long way. And I think that, to me, is the hub of social media, really. It's about connecting people and bringing people in. And whilst I went off and I did A-levels, started a degree, it was all in something totally different. And I happened to fall into recruitment. And it was because I happened to know somebody who knew somebody who wanted somebody to introduce them to various other networks. And I started to work in recruitment. I worked in sales and marketing. And I loved the fact that I could bring people together, and through a particular process, I could get them a job or move them into a different part of an organization and things like that. And I think at the time I didn't really, LinkedIn had just come out. It was a CV database. It was all fairly dull and boring, and I never really thought very much about this sort of social media stuff. Then along came Friends Reunited, which I loved because I could stalk lots of ex-boyfriends and see where they were.
I remember Friends Reunited.
It's got a real special place in my heart, just because it was it was the first social media platform that was out there. And I think it was a real shame that they didn't do it. I think it was ITV that bought it, and it didn't do anything with it. But I slightly digress, but within recruitment, it was all about creating communities and connecting people and networking and meeting people. And when I got to a certain point, I got married, I was having children, I just couldn't do the hours, the after work meetings that were required to recruit these sort of head guys of businesses and girls of businesses. And so I decided to take some time out. My husband rather patronizingly said, maybe I should go into a photography course or something like that, which there is nothing wrong with photography by any means. And I use it an awful lot on social media, but it just wasn't me. But it did get me thinking about the sorts of things that I might want to do. So I'd never been very good with art, but I'd always loved flowers. I'd always bought lots of flowers and fiddled around and things like that. So I went off and did a floristry course, which was totally random to me, totally different set of skills, but I really enjoyed it and I seemed to be all right at it. And I went off and did some training. I set up as a florist and it was great. I was doing weddings, I was doing parties and things like that, but I wanted to be busier. I wanted more. And I was finding it really difficult to get in front of an audience without having to pay a lot of money to do it. So, to get into the local magazine, etc., local magazine, you had to pay 250 quid for an editorial. Well, for a one-man band, that was quite a lot of money, and there was no guaranteed return on investment. So I did a leaflet drop one weekend before Valentine's, and I put 3,000, me and my little pushchair walked all around the streets of the Cotswolds, and then we put 3,000 leaflets through people's doors. And I think we had one response from it, and it was heartbreaking, soul destroying, all that effort to very little gain. So it got me thinking about, what else is out there? Surely there must be other ways for me to get out and start telling everybody about me. Facebook was about 2 years old. There was this new thing called Instagram, which had just been launched. And I was on Facebook. I sort of had heard about this Twittery thing, etc. And so within my flower room, I started having a fiddle around, having a look and see what these platforms were all about. And it was really through Instagram that I started to think, I can actually start a conversation with a cake maker. And I've started a conversation with a funeral director. And there's a wedding venue over there that I would never have normally come across, but I've just started talking to them. And slowly I built this community of only about 8 or 10 close individuals, but we all funneled into each other. We all did weddings or events, and we all needed each other for our clients. And that was how I then started to grow the business. And then I realized just how important social media was. I could show everybody what I did. I could engage with other places where my clients would be. And I grew my business from that perspective. Fast forward a year or so, I was very busy at weekends. I had a young family. I had a husband who worked abroad, and it just wasn't working. So I sold the business. And at that point, I was thinking, great, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to have a bit of time with my 2 little children, when a number of my friends who did own their own businesses then started saying to me, can you help me with the social media malarkey? And I don't get this, and why should I be doing that? And who wants to know what I'm doing, etc. So I started helping local businesses, friends who had businesses, just to get their profiles raised. And it was incredible. What came so naturally to me as somebody who loved to have a quick chat with somebody, loved to be a little bit nosy, liked to find out about other people, loved to sort of help people get things advanced. A lot of people were sitting back, they were scared of the technology, they were scared of sort of putting out there, what will people think of them? And I just naturally fell into that role of helping people doing their social media and that side. But I did realize that there was this massive world out there that was a lot more complicated than just putting a few posts out there. And I think that's, if there are any negatives about social media, it's the understanding. A lot of people have the belief, I suppose, that actually you can give it to your daughter or you can give it to your niece and they can go and run your whole social media. Now, they may well be very good with the features, but there's an awful lot more behind it that really is the understanding and the principles. So I took myself off to do a training course. I did I think it was about 9 months training course with a company called Digital Mums, and learned everything there was at the time to know about social media. Probably now you could write it on a postcard, but back then it seemed quite a lot. And I launched Social Honeycomb. I decided that I really wanted to get out there and wanted to help people. I was happy to do it for other people, and took on my first clients when I sort of graduated from there in 2018, and started doing it for people. And since then, business has morphed, it's changed. I no longer do the doing for people, but I sort of help write strategy, advise them, implement it, and things like that. So it's been a a really lovely journey of a sort of very natural growth, really, and sort of organic movement. But it's at the heart of it is still the communities. It's still the whether you're doing it for somebody else or you're helping them write a strategy or training them on how to use the platforms, it's all about those connections and being, you know, I guess in the bluntest form, you can sit on your sofa and network without having to go anywhere.
You know what, it does sound like an incredible journey. And what you said is also very organically grown into its different stages as you grew with your family, and then being able to sort of find something that you could do alongside that, which I think a lot of people are looking for at the moment, you know, to find something that they can do alongside a family and bringing up and doing it at different times. And that's the thing about social media, isn't it? Because you can very much do social media at times when you don't need to be with your family, so in the late evenings and that sort of thing. So it's something that can be really suitable. But you did say a great point about the fact that people underestimate, and I hear a lot of new businesses, especially if they are perhaps a little bit older and don't really know the different platforms, and they go, oh, I just get my niece to do that for me, or I just get them to post. Tell us a little bit more about what goes on behind the scenes, because there is so much more to it, and the messaging and everything else. So tell us a little bit about the involvement of that.
So social media is very much a part of a marketing strategy. And I think a lot of people think, you know, here we go, social media, we'll just get out there and we'll chuck out everything that we want people to know and it to work. But actually, you do need your specific messaging. You do need to understand what it is your audience wants to hear and their pain points. And it's only really from working within your own business that you will actually really understand what those messages are that you need to get out there and what those pain points are that you need to address. And for that's the reason why I say, you know, your niece or your nephew or whoever, Mrs. Miggins' daughter down the road, aren't necessarily the right person, because they don't have that depth of knowledge. And that was one of the reasons why I slightly took a step back from the doing it for people, because it's definitely a much better communication piece if you can do it from within a business. Now, I appreciate not everybody's got the time, and startups and things, they often will want to outsource. But it is really, really important that whoever it is that's doing your social media really understands the messaging and almost has, you know, when I'm working with businesses, helping them develop their strategy, it's about, you know, who is it you're trying to talk to? What are the messages you're trying to get out there? What are the features that you're going to be using? But actually, it's almost the features are the smallest part of it. It's the tactics that you're going to use and the principles that you're going to use. And one of the biggest thing I say to a lot of my clients is, you know, you only need to spend 40% of your time actually posting. 60% of your time should be spent going out and engaging with your audience and your prospective audience and clients. And it's only if you're working within that industry or that environment that you're really going to have a good understanding of who is it that you need to be engaging with, and where are you going to find them, and how you're going to start those conversations. It's a bit like stalking, really, but much better.
I've got a question with you around that, right? So, you know, talking about engagement and posts and stuff like that, let's talk about the boost button, because so many people I know have gone, well, I've boosted my post, and I go, great, how much have you spent? And they go, X amount, hundreds of pounds, and it's achieved nothing. Yeah. You know, this whole Facebook advertisement thing is, or LinkedIn or Instagram, no matter where it is, you need to know what you're doing, right? You can't just press a button and hope for the best on this.
No. You can't, and I do feel that the likes of Facebook and Instagram, well, in fact, all of them, it's a bit of a con when you suddenly have this boost, get more engagement, get more likes, etc. The Facebook algorithm and any advertising algorithm is so complicated, and it has so many different levels with which people will engage with it, that by just hitting a button that has no data behind it is really like throwing your money in the wind. You know, I've just done some work with a client. I've been going back over, been doing an audit for them, going back over their spend from an advertising perspective, and they were putting £200-300 behind an advert, a post, to get it out there and get it sponsored, and they were having absolutely little, if any, engagement from that. You know, the first thing you need to do is take a post that is performing massively well in the first place, because that already ticks the boxes that people are interested in that post, and then you send it further. But don't do it via the boost button, because the boost button has no particular data behind you, and especially now that Apple have switched off the sort of the tracking side of things, so they don't share the data with other people, it's even more difficult to use Facebook ads. And I'm not an ad specialist because it is such a complicated area, and you really do need to be a specialist within that area. You know, you should, as a business, if you're going to be using Facebook ads, the minimum you need is the pixel from Facebook on your website, so it's already knowing who's on your website and what they're looking at and things like that. But it's somebody that is going to be able to decipher all of that information and get your posts in front of the right people. But there's a lot of chatter at the moment, because Apple have switched this off and Android or Google are about to switch it off, that the advertising on Facebook is suddenly going to become really, really small. So actually, you're better off looking at TikTok, on TikTok, and even going back to, if you like, the old-fashioned Google ads and things like that. So, you know, it's now what used to be there on a plate for Facebook is now much better to be spread more across the others. Now, I've got no doubt that Facebook will sort it out, will come to some sort of agreement, and will then go back up again. But I really wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket, and definitely don't touch that boost button.
What
Fantastic.
a great answer.
I'm glad I asked, because it's a great reply.
Yeah, absolutely great to hear sort of about, because I think it's such, the one thing I've heard, and especially in the last couple of weeks, is that people are so overwhelmed. And there's so many different platforms and things. So how can you help, and how can you work with people and kind of realize what is the best thing for people to do before they come to somebody like yourself and say, right, you know, what should I do about my social media, and where they start working on a strategy with you? What's the best tips for them beforehand?
The best tips is to work out who is it that they want to be talking to, who is the audience that is going to be buying from them. Because if your audience is a bunch of 40 plus individuals, then you're not necessarily going to want to be on TikTok. If your audience is B2B, then you're really only going to want to be on LinkedIn and maybe Twitter. You know, you can end up spreading yourself so thin and being on all the platforms that actually you do more harm than good, because you can't specialize and niche in a particular area. So you're much better off understanding exactly who is your audience and exactly what your offering is going to be to that audience, and then coming to me and saying, right, this is what we want to get out there, and this is to whom. And then I can work with you to say, okay, right, well, let's look at the exact topics we're going to look at. Let's look at the style of content that we want to put out. You know, it's not just about saying, you know, oh, today we've launched this product and we're doing such and such. We want to be engaging with people. We want to be using calls to action. We want to be asking them questions. We want to be sharing our experience and educating an audience. We need them to keep on coming back. And one of the things I talk about in my content club is moving your audience from a cold audience to becoming a hot audience, and that there is a process for doing that via your social media. So it's very much know who you're talking to and know what it is you want to talk to them about. And then we can look at designing the strategy. You know, are you going to be bringing in influencers? Are you going to be doing it yourself? Are you going to be doing advertising? And if so, where and how? And then looking at the mechanization or the sort of processes behind that. How often are we going to be posting? Where are we posting? Are we going in and targeting particular areas and particular sites and things like that? So, you know, there is a lot more to it than just let me stick a post out and I'll wait till somebody says they want to buy from me.
I say this a lot, right? People think that they just got to put stuff out there and people will come. And I always say, you're not building the ark, right? It doesn't happen. And there's a reason why when they built the ark, 2 giraffes turned up, right? It's not about that. You have to know who you're aiming the market at, and you don't want 2 of everything. You want groups of people, and you need to understand who that is, and you need to understand who you're looking for. And I think it's right about, you know, people do get overwhelmed with social media. And there's so many platforms out there now. I mean, we've mentioned some at the beginning, but then you've also got Reddit, Pinterest, these are two that we haven't mentioned, as well as Buzz, I think is another one. There's loads, Blogger, there's loads of these little platforms out there that people don't necessarily use or utilize.
And not to mention the audio ones that are now coming through, Clubhouse, etc.
Yeah, you have to understand where your audience is going to be hanging out. If you work with certain groups, they hang out in certain places.
Yeah, exactly. And also where you're most comfortable. Yeah, there is no point in you trying to be on TikTok, even if your audience is there, and you just aren't comfortable, because it's just not going to work. You can be in the right place, etc. But if your content is rubbish, then people aren't going to engage. So it needs to be that balance. And I always say to clients, spend 80% of your time on one platform and do it really well and be really consistent. And then 20% maybe on a couple of other platforms or another platform. But pick your platform and really focus on it. Now, I am on a number of platforms. I do, but then that's my job, if you like. But I tend to be predominantly at the moment on Instagram. I'm about to maybe move across a bit more to LinkedIn and Twitter. But pick what you're comfortable with, pick where your audience is, and pick something that you can consistently. It doesn't have to be every day, but consistently, once a week or twice a week, whatever it happens to be, make sure you are showing up and make sure you're engaging. It's not rocket science, but it's something that I've only recently really started to appreciate. But it is networking, and you can't network with 1,000 people and get good results, but you can network with 10 or 15 people and get really good results. And so it's not about the numbers, although everybody's going, oh, I've got 250,000, isn't it great? It's about having those proper conversations and creating those communities, because ultimately it's people who are either going to buy from you or tell their audience about you, and then they will buy from you.
I think you brought up an amazing
really
point.
Good point.
There,
I think you've picked up on the same point, haven't you? It's not about the numbers. The numbers mean nothing.
It's about the people that are engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I want to sort of, apart from the overwhelm, apart from the amount of platforms that are out there, I think social media, can be such an incredible tool for entrepreneurs, especially when you're first starting out and you might not even have a website. And I've seen that happening. So tell us a little bit about those sort of positives within social media that can really change and be game changing for a business that's starting out.
So it is one of those things where you don't necessarily need a website. It is very useful to have a website, even if it's just a very basic 2-page website that you can divert people to. But with any of the social media platforms, you are able to get in front of so many people that you wouldn't be able to. With a website, you're there, you're waiting for everybody to come to you. With social media, you're going out and you're finding people. So you can have conversations with people you never even knew existed. That they never even knew you existed. Now, an example of this is I worked a while ago with an Italian vineyard, and they wanted to get in front of various journalists. They want in front of the wine critics, but they were a tiny little vineyard. Nobody really knew about them. Via Twitter, we developed a relationship with a particularly well-known wine critic, and we managed to convince them to try the wine. In fact, there were 2 of them. We managed to convince them to try the wine. One loved it, one didn't. But the one that loved it wrote about it in a leading newspaper and printed an article, and they sold out of that particular wine for that particular year. And they had a sales director who had been there for 8 years. He knew everybody in the industry, but he couldn't get people to these particular group of individuals to get there. But for me, who knew nothing or very little about wine, along with the owner, we worked via Twitter. We got in front of the right people. We had the conversations, and we were able to jump on other conversations that were going on, join them in, and that was how we did it. So you can really get in front of people that you never really thought in a million years that you could get in front of. It is a great way for opening the doors. I'm not saying that you can do all your sales just via social media. You certainly need the face-to-face, and you need other people or you need to be following up on things, but you can get in front of other people. You can also find other businesses that will support you and can help you. They may be complementary to you. They may have the same sort of audience. But again, rather than having to go to trade fair and walking around for hours and hours and shaking hands with, all these people, etc. You can start those conversations via LinkedIn, whatever it happens to be. You can also use social media to get your audience viewpoint, get feedback, do your own market research. So I know a lot of people don't like them, but things like the polls that you can do on LinkedIn or on Instagram and various other platforms, it's a great way of getting people to decide, it could be something like, do those colors work on your logo? Or I'm looking at this product, or this is my packaging, which do you like? And it's just a mini sort of bit of market research. So it really can be a great way of not only meeting your clients, prospective clients, but meeting other people and other businesses that will support you and introduce other business to you, as well as getting feedback from the marketplace around what you should be doing and what they think of your products and services.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the pros of social media, right? That's the positives. Come on, Ed. What's the cons? What's the negative of social media?
The amount of screen time my phone tells me I'm doing every week. So the cons are, it is very easy to disappear down a rabbit hole and not come up for an hour and a half. And there are techniques that I have an alarm that goes off every 15 minutes to every half an hour that's sort of just going to wake me up and to make me think, am I actually focusing on what I should be? Because what it's all like, it starts to scroll, then you go, oh, that's interesting. Another con is people can start to think that their entire life is run by social media, that they're just using social media to get some sort of feedback, and social media you can put something out, it can be brilliant, it can be a really well written piece, and it just disappears like tumbleweed and nothing happens. Now that could be all sorts of reasons. It could be because it's the wrong time, it could be it's the wrong platform, or it could be just that it's not the right sort of content for that particular time. So keep on trying with social media, keep on, if a post doesn't work this week, then try and put it out in a couple of weeks' time and see whether that's got any more engagement. But do come out and pick your head up and get outside in nature and have conversations with real human beings, but use social media to start those conversations and then bounce from it. So I keep telling my children, social media, you must be off, you can't be on it all the time. And there's a lot of gaming obviously from that side, and I totally get that there's a lot of mental health issues as a result of a number of the features on social media. But for the uses that I have brought in, and the reasons I work with my clients is it is positive, it's to get your messaging out there, and it's to get you meeting other people. But don't forget to focus on your message, on what it is you're trying to achieve, and then step away from anything else.
That's a really good point.
I'd love the conversation in your house when you say, get off that social media, and they go, Mum, you do it for a living.
I know, I have literally done that where I'm going, can you put your phone down, please, and just eat it?
Sorry, carry on.
No, I want to sort of ask very quickly about, so we're bringing it back to business sort of entrepreneurs. I want to sort of ask you about your positives and challenges within you starting your own business. Would you like to share some of those with us?
Yeah, so if I give you the challenges first, I think the challenges I found was being a one-woman band. It was suddenly I was faced with all these things that I had no idea how to do. I had no idea how to do a balance sheet. I had no idea sort of where I should be putting my money from a marketing perspective. I didn't really know who I could go to for help because everybody wanted to charge me for this or that, and I was just a small person that was just trying to find their way. But I think the benefits have been that I've met some amazing people, because I realized that actually by going networking, and you guys with See No Bounds and the Business Focus Network and various other networks I've joined, you meet some amazing people who are really happy to have that sort of 10-15 minute conversation with you and say, have you tried this, or have you found that, or Christ, I know exactly where you're coming from, this or that. And and I find a lot of people within networking groups that I'm talking to, or just in general, are saying, I'm giving up social media, I'm not getting any engagement at the moment, it's all suddenly fallen off the edge of a precipice. And I can then turn around and say, well, actually, that's the same for everybody. That's exactly what's happened. Something's happened with an algorithm, and everybody's going through changes. And I think it's, from my perspective, it's knowing that actually you can ask for help. There's, from me, the pros of and the benefits of this is I think I've really grown as a person, having been incredibly proud. And yes, I can do it all, and I'm doing this on my own because I can do it on my own. I've actually realised it's a braver person who actually turns around and says, "Could you help me, please? Could I have 10 minutes of your time? Is there any chance you could point me in this direction?" And I think and I've met some really fabulous people through that, and I've taken on some challenges I never thought I'd take on, and I think I've helped people through challenges that they never thought that they could achieve. And that's not just from a working perspective, that's because I've built the personal relationships with people. And I think it's also, I think my biggest learning to date is don't believe all the crap that you're told. A lot of people stand in front of you and tell you they're amazing, they're fantastic, and they've got 6-figure salaries, and especially on social media, they're all there saying, from this to that to the next thing. A lot of it is rubbish. Peel away at those layers, and you will find out that some people are truly successful, but others aren't necessarily. But just look at the bits that you need and take those bits from those people.
Yeah, there's great. I get cold messages all the time saying, "Work with me." I get regular clients, six figure monthly turnovers, and I'm like, really? Then why are you cold calling me? Because if you were getting your clients 6 figures, you wouldn't need to be cold calling me, because you'd have a waiting list.
There was a course that I signed up to, and I pretty much signed up. The only reason I signed up was because I was so fed up with all these people saying, "I run my business from the beach, and I've got 6 figures," and the social media that this girl was putting out was her on a beach with these bits of paper flying all over the place, and it was raining and she was wet, and she looked at the camera and said, "If anybody tells you it's easy to work from a beach and earn 6 figures, they're lying, but I can help you get a little bit along that ladder." And I just thought, do you know what, you're my kind of person. So I think it's about being honest. And social media, you ask about the negatives of social media. Social media can be quite a false place, but actually, I'm kind of on a bit of a mission that there needs to be more honesty. And I think by being honest and putting yourself out on social media via video a lot more will help connect you with other people, and people will start to know, like, and trust you more, and that way make more connections.
I think you're totally right, because it comes back to the people buy from people and get to see that person. And I think as well, I think social media, if it's used correctly, can be incredibly positive. If you just put out the positives yourself and kind of getting rid of stuff that is not so positive, and you will automatically get more positive coming your way. Yeah, and it's very true.
I also think you've made some really good points, that people buy from people, and people are looking for honesty now, because people know that there is a lot of false rubbish out there. Okay, so I got one more question for you, Caroline, and that question is, if you were to give anybody a top tip, what would that top tip be?
Gosh, what would that top tip be?
They could either be starting up or they could be scaling up. So it's either way, whichever one you think.
In connection with social media or just in general?
In general, in business in general.
I would say surround yourself by people that you trust and that you like and that are prepared to help you. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Brilliant. And that is a phenomenal top tip. It must be something in the social media world, actually, because we've had that top tip from the lovely Mark Wright, who said something very similar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he said, surround yourself with people that can do the things that you can't, which is, again, it's absolutely perfect. Caroline, I love you. You know that. I think you're absolutely brilliant. There's very little that you don't know about this subject. If anyone is listening into this show, either live or via the podcast channels, and they go, do you know what, I need to work with Social Honeycomb. I really like Caroline. She knows what she's talking about, and they'd be right, by the way. Where can they find you?
So they can find me, funnily enough, on a lot of social media channels. I'm on Instagram as Social Honeycomb, and I'm on LinkedIn as myself, Caroline McShane, or my website, which is www.socialhoneycomb.co.uk. But also, if they want to work with me, but not actually directly with me, I have an online training course, which is all about how to leverage the power of video to supercharge your social media engagement. And that's getsocialwithvideo.com. And don't tell anybody else, but if anybody is interested and puts in the code social100, then they'll get £100 off the retail price. So that brings it down to 149, I think.
Fantastic. And we won't tell anybody. We'll only tell the 20 million people that have tuned in.
Don't tell anybody, yeah.
Caroline, it's been absolutely lovely having you on the show. And a massive, massive thank you for you giving up your time. And you know, I think there were some really valuable golden nuggets in there that anybody setting up and also scaling up will be interested into listening to. And I think for me, one of the biggest things that I took away from that was don't overthink it, right? Don't over pressurize yourself. So much pressure on being on every single platform, and actually what you were saying is don't do that. Just follow your customers, follow your audience, and also stay comfortable around it, because you'll get the best results. So yeah, that's what I took from it. Thank you so much for your time today, Caroline, and we will see you very, very soon. Take care.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Blue Koala Office Solutions. We are here to help you grow with competitive rates and reliable sources, allowing you to expand and develop in an efficient way. Why do you need a virtual office address? Perhaps you're working from home, but you don't want to use your home address. You may be an expanding business and are looking to attract businesses in Newport and or Cardiff. Are you looking for an address you can register with Google and SEO? We offer flexible short-term agreements, super high-speed fibre, 24-hour access and security, meeting room for up to 6 people. We are located in Whitchurch, Cardiff, with easy access from M4 and A470, and as well as the meeting room, we also have a podcast studio and a film studio that you can rent on an hourly basis. We have created a cozy hidden gem where businesses can come together to brainstorm, as well as having a professional environment. So if you would like to find out more, get in touch. info@bluekoalaofficesolutions.com.